僕は最低だ。
What's up, everyone? Welcome to 3 out of 10 Anime Fans recommend you check out this podcast if you ever get reincarnated into another world, aka 3 out of 10 Anime. This show is all about having fun conversations to rank anime based on a standard set of criteria so they can be organized, compared, and contrasted. We discuss a different show or movie each week, so whether you're a seasoned weeb or new to the genre, we know you'll have a great time. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Here's the agenda for each episode. We start by giving our first impression of the show and describing it in one sentence. Then we go into our personal enjoyment, a rubric we each have where we rank the show on how much we liked it on a scale of 1 to 10, how much we enjoyed watching it. Then we go into a technical assessment, which is a collective score in 4 categories based on a rubric. And we rank each one so that we get a collective 1 to 10 ranking on technical. Then we go into comparisons and recommendations for things you should like if you liked the show we discussed this week. And then finally, we discuss and announce what we are doing on next week's episode. I'm Brett.
I'm Skyler.
And I'm Braydn.
We are your hosts from the United States. We each have varying opinions, tastes, and backgrounds, which should result in some interesting and relatable dialogue, no matter who you are. We're grateful you're joining us for our discussion about this week's show, Mob Psycho 100.
Yeah, we are.
Mob Psycho 100. It is a comedy mystery drama available on Crunchyroll, and we're going to be covering both season 1 and season 2. Spoiler warning, expect spoilers for season 1 and 2. If you don't want them, go watch the show and then come back to the podcast. So without further ado, how would you guys describe your impression of Mob Psycho 100 in one sentence?
This week, I request we save me for last. You need to go first.
Okay, Braydn last. Skyler, do you want to go first?
Sure. A young man trying his best who also just so happens to be just completely filled to the brim with power.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
My impression of Mob Psycho 100 is a really good show I could not get into because it was ugly on multiple levels. On multiple levels, it was ugly, and I couldn't get into it. That's my impression of Mob Psycho. Braydn.
All right. You guys ready for this one? I wrote
Buckle
this one earlier. I'm very excited for this. Yeah, prep it up. Loosen up. All right. If Gandhi was an animator and comedian, this would have been his love note to people struggling against bullying. Mic drop. Boom!
Wow. Okay. I think you're going to need to hit us with that one more time.
Okay, yeah. Right. So, if Gandhi was an animator and comedian, this would have been his love note to people struggling against bullying.
If Gandhi was a comedian and an animator.
Mm-hmm. And I am fully ready to unpack every little bite of that sentence. Let's go!
Okay, start unpacking it. Let's jump into our personal enjoyment. Braydn, what did you rate the show for your own enjoyment on 1 to 10?
Oh, crew, I've seen this one multiple times. We talked about how things need be above a 4 on my rating to even be recommended by me personally, and this one hunted a 9.
All right.
It is a fantastic anime that I believe just is so expressive and fully realizes the stuff I love that it's trying to convey. Very heartfelt messages, very wild characters, and I don't know, just really dig my teeth into. I love it.
Sweet. Okay, a 9. I gave it, for my enjoyment, a 4.5. I actively did not like it. It missed for me on multiple levels, and I could not force myself to get into it if I wanted to. I was not a fan. Skyler.
So I actually gave this one an 8. And for me, an 8 is a show that I enjoyed, but it had problems. I might watch it again with others. So if I have someone that I would recommend it to, I would watch it with them, but I won't watch it again alone.
Okay. Okay. And you reminded me, Skyler, I should clarify for me what a 4 and a 5 is for my ranking. Thanks for reminding me. So for me, a 4 is a show which fails to entertain me or bothers me so much that I actually decide to stop watching it. Or I finish it begrudgingly. A 5 is a show where I don't really care if I finish it or don't. I'm just super meh on it. And so that's why I landed at 4.5. So I begrudgingly finished it.
Yeah. Okay. And you finished season 2, you were saying.
Okay, so for season 2, there is a YouTube channel that does really in-depth, super good recaps of anime. It's like 20 minutes long and goes into episode by episode what happens. That's how I got caught up on season 2, because I did not like the show enough to watch season 2. I barely finished season 1, but I wanted for this discussion to be caught up, so I watched the in-depth recap of season 2. I actually watched 2 different recaps of season 2, so that's why I'm caught up on everything.
Okay.
And before we really dig into stuff, I want to ask, like, did that help?
Totally. In fact, just off of the recap, I can say I like season 2 more than season 1.
Now, and then the follow-up to that would be, if you watch season 1 in that matter, do you think your rating of it would go up?
Heck no.
I mean, not your rating, I guess, but your enjoyable, like, because your rating is the show itself, right?
Yeah.
But would you think you've got more out of season 1 if you would watch it this way?
Oh, if I watched season 1 as a recap, would I have liked it more?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have. I would have liked it more because I wouldn't have had to spend so long looking at things that I hated.
Oh, come on. It was fun. There's so much weird crap all the time on the screen. It was just, no?
No amount of fun. No amount of fun in any show on this planet could get me to like a show in that animation style. It's a petty thing to be caught up on, okay? But the point of a show is to watch something, and to me, it was so unenjoyable to look at. I could not like it. I couldn't. Like,
see,
and I'm the same with all the Cartoon Network shows that are in that same style that everybody loves. I can't stand them. I can't. I try so many times. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna watch 3 episodes of Bob's Burgers, or I'm gonna watch 3 episodes of this other show, and I hate them. I cannot. Can't watch.
Are there any other shows you would toss in for this animation style? This Cartoon Network.
I mean, there's a lot of shows. I just let me pull up some of them. You guys keep talking. I'll pull up some example shows.
Yeah, because I mean, Brett, what I have to say is both shocking and disturbing to you, but possibly based on how you're talking about this. So I'm interested in how you would flesh out this, how you would flesh out talking about this animation style. They go between a lot of stuff. Like, it's not just one. There's one base style that is anime. It's a more grungy anime, I'll give.
Yes.
But they toss between a lot of different styles. That's not a straightforward line, and I'm not just referring to, but I will include the moments when Mob is like freaking out and they show him like washing away in like watercolor, or when he's going into like kaleidoscope flash effects when he's emitting power. There's also just moments where they just change styles entirely and they walk with that for like maybe a solid minute of a non-anime style show. It looks like a I don't know, American specifically. It's just not anime. They just step off of anime and go into other recognizable art forms or art styles to convey a message or a scene or whatever they're going for.
Okay, that's true. And to that point, I'll answer that question. That's a really good point. So the moments where the animation was not the standard animation, what I mean by the standard animation is if you take the amount of screen time of each animation style and you take, first of all, the character design, the general character design, and the animation of those characters when they are emoting or when they are doing an action or when something is happening, that is what I hated the most. I hated the intentionally ugly faces, the intentionally stupidly huge butt chin on the guy in the club,
Okay.
Like just the ugly
the
characters.
guy. He's unforgivable. I love that guy.
The ugly character design, and they were trying to do that. It was an intentional choice. I just hate that intentional choice. The moments like this though that I put up here on my little whiteboard behind me, those moments are sick. Like I love those moments. I could watch just a highlight reel of those moments of Mob Psycho and be super stoked and happy and giddy, and it's awesome. Every time, like basically the only thing that kept me watching the show was moments where Mob would hit 100 and the animation would just go balls to the walls crazy, and I lived for those moments in the show. But it's the only thing I live for in the show. Does that make sense of the things I didn't like and did like?
Yeah. I just because this is the point. We're leading in with the point and disparaging our maybe because it affected a lot of things that maybe have other things you aren't as passionate about as I am. But I earnestly and truly hold the animation and art of Mob Psycho 100 to the level of animation of Studio Ghibli. While it is a completely different form, it is gorgeous, immaculate, deep, and encompassing just a swell of expertise as I see it.
I can't argue that it's not good. I think that I very much, when we have our technical discussion, I think I will be on your side that the animation is a very strong part of this show, and I think it was done super well. But I can acknowledge things that are done super well that I don't like. I don't enjoy. Like for example, I don't know. For example, caviar and seafood. I'm not a big fan of caviar and seafood, but if there's a chef that spends 3 hours making a single dish with the most intricately balanced flavors on this fillet of this rare fish with caviar on top, I might think it's disgusting and I might not personally like it, but I can respect it and be like, that was super well done. That was amazing. I hate how it tastes, but I have mad props for the technical art of making that thing. So, and that's how I feel about Mob Psycho. I hated a lot of the art aspects, like the characters specifically, but I'm not saying it wasn't good. I just didn't like it.
Yeah, I just kind of have to kick myself because I don't know if this really did affect it because it obviously affected you consistently over a long time. But I know that when I brought this show forward for us to watch, that I said, warning, this is a show about ugly characters. That's how I let in with it. 100%.
I wouldn't say about ugly characters, but the author artist did not shy away from bringing in ugly characters, ugly designs. But at the same time, I actually give him a lot of props because to a certain extent, I'm almost to the point where I would say it's almost too easy to go for beauty because that's all you see in Hollywood. It's all you see in animation. It's just these super beautiful people doing these things, and then, there's someone ugly. Well, it's either going to be a sidekick or the villain. And so having Mob Psycho is just like, there's ugly people, and they're just people. You know, he just kind of played into that really well, in my opinion. But that's something that I would really dive into more on the technical side than the enjoyment side. It definitely took me by surprise when, as you mentioned, Butt Chin Man appeared in the first episode. I was just like, he is ugly. But again, where it's comedy, I kind of was able to get on board and accept that was a part of the joke.
I think it even lends to itself pretty well because when they want to make a beautiful character in the show, literally the love interest, what's her name? Tsubomi? Is that her name?
I don't know.
Mom's love interest.
Yeah, I think so.
When we introduce her into the show, she's literally portrayed like a halo and gorgeous, just cute, almost chibi anime, and all of her friends are vegetables. Which,
Yep.
if it doesn't hit like how they can hit a depth, I mean, that's obviously not the best example, because you compare her with Butt Chin Man or her with Mob, like even how Mob, the main character, is animated or like looked, or his character design, he's not cute, attractive, which Tsubomi, the love interest character, is. And where they have just a baseline of just this gritting, ugly, average Joe looking bunch of characters, and then they can have some of those standout characters pop out. I think it allows them to pop in a space where anime lets them just wash away.
Well, it's
really cool.
Again, that's why I was going to bring it up in the technical aspect, but it's the idea of contrast. Contrast is usually referred to in just colors of like black and whites, where when you have a really dark black versus a really bright white, that contrast allows you to see the contrast and the difference between those two colors.
Exactly
but
what I was
the
going
contrast
for.
applies to other things as well, and in this case it is beauty. And yeah, where this author set the baseline as average to ugly, yeah, the characters who break that stereotype do stand out. But to Brett's point, where it's like, even as much as she was played up, the love interest, as you kind of mentioned, it really didn't quite hit the same levels of beauty as it does in other styles of animation, because this one just didn't lend itself to that type of beauty, is what I would say. But yeah, the contrast still definitely portrayed her, and again, a few other characters, as being more beautiful in that sense than other characters that were in the show.
Yeah, they did. All right, let's talk about some other stuff, because when I gave my sentence, it had nothing to do about the animation. I mean, maybe it could allude to that Gandhi might have been not a very beautiful animator, but I wasn't going to get semantics of that. There's some really deep notes in this show, crew. Like, some really deep notes that I, in some lines, kin with, in some size I wanted to empathize with, because I understand, or maybe I've seen those, like the level of or I've seen the situations they pulled through. Like, for instance, when like brothers talking about an inferiority complex. We're talking about the brother Ritsu. Mob loves Ritsu. I mean, he adores his older brother, who's good at just about everything. People love him, right? He's popular in some senses. He is very intelligent. And he knows how to like when at the start of the show, when Mob bent the spoon trying to eat it, Ritsu's just like, oh, easy. I know how to do this thing to fix it, while Mob was like kind of nonplussed in the whole situation. Ritsu's a fixer, he's a doer. But then we find out that Ritsu has this like aching monster inside of him that wants to be able to do the one thing that Mob is good at. Like, he has the swath of everything else, but wants that one thing. And what does he do to go about it? He supports his brother for the most part. And then he, like, in his closet, he's practicing bending spoons, or over the sink, he's like thinking, please bend. I'm like, oh my goodness, the hidden character on this side boy is, I mean, one of many times they throw different scenarios that I just I thoroughly enjoy.
And there were multiple characters that I really liked in the show. My favorite characters in the show were the fitness club.
Yes,
the fitness club characters were
fight on.
Yes, they were the best. I loved the fitness club characters, and in tandem with that, I did like Mob's character a lot. I really liked Mob's character.
Oh, especially when he made that choice to join the fitness club instead of like this lack of combat. He was like being pressured to join.
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, good for you, Mob.
And the funny and some of the moments where like in season 1 where he's trying to be convinced to go to the Smiley cult.
Yeah.
And they're like, come with us, and he's like, no, we'll make you popular. Okay. He's just like, I'm in. So like, yeah, super funny moments there. And in season 2, I particularly feel like Mob had this incredible chance to evolve, and his his inner psyche was really explored in season 2 a lot deeper.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that that as well. In both extremes, like the extreme of him finding pain and himself, but even in the part where like he comes in and he's in that dream world and he sees the bodies of his family that are burned to a crisp. In season 1, he would have just immediately gone 100. Nothing could have pulled him back, and he just would have, But enter one of my things I loathe about this show, the stupid green ghost.
Oh yeah.
And he's actually able to talk Mob down from a situation that would have just sent him over the top, no questions asked. So like Mob progresses. I really like him as a character.
Bugger, what is that character's name?
I want to say it's Ichabod, after like the Headless Horseman.
No, that ain't it. It's like Crumple or something.
No, it's Dimple.
Because
of the red cheeks, Dimple. And whenever he possesses someone, the red circles show up in their mouth. They get dimples.
Oh, Dimple, man, what just a weird character. I hate him, and I feel it's intentional for me to hate him.
I disagree.
You disagree? Okay, go for it.
I disagree. I don't think it's intention. I get some characters exist because you're supposed to not like them. I think that Dimple is supposed to be a character that you are supposed to like, that grows on you. Because there's kind of the season 1 where you're like, oh man, he's selfish, he's against Mob. But you're like, oh no, you know what? He's growing to care for Mob, and he wants to protect him. He takes over his body multiple times in seasons 2 just to protect him. And he might say that it's because he wants to eventually possess him, but he really cares for him. I think you're supposed to like Dimple, but I hated him from the moment he was introduced to this day. And if I watch a recap of season 3, I'll hate him then too. I hated his character on every level.
I will say my postulation of him being an intentionally hated character is entirely based off season 1, because there's a whole arc with him. Like episodes 3, 4, and 5, and Dimple's introduced as the cultist leader, and then he's like hovering around Mob, and then what's his butt? Long hair, Hanazawa, the rival Mob boss, whatever, kid rival leader, banishes him. And then Mob's like, he was awful, but also he was like there for me and support. Like he would push me to become more, because Dimple saw something in Mob, but all we really saw of him, I mean, we only saw that part of him in a flashback. Everything leading up to them, Dimple's horrible. Dimple's not great.
Oh yeah, true.
He's a horrible influence, and he's just terrible to Mob and around Mob, and just incites into all kinds of bad things that Mob doesn't do, but like Dimple wants him to.
Well, and I think that to me is part of the reason why I liked Mob, is because you had Dimple, you had the mentor, and a good amount of the people around him were just terrible people. But he had enough support, whether it was his family or the athletics club, that kind of gave him that boost. But he was always, like I said, that's kind of why I liked him, because he was just trying his best, despite all the negative and just outright bad people around him.
And I think that's where Braydon's Gandhi comment comes in, which is, what is the character of Mob supposed to do in this show? He is supposed to show you that everyone is worth love, no matter who they are, what they've done, etc. That's what Mob is there to do, is to be that Gandhi character who loves everyone, even in the moment when him and his brother are in the cell, season 1, and then he just gives him a hug. That's what Mob is. He is that expression of just caring unequivocally for people.
He does not want to hurt, harm, unleash pain on anybody, like enlarge into what's his name, Reagan's influence. Like that one moment when he was all torn up because he hurt people in the flashback of his brother and him being bullied. His brother was getting really hurt, and then he just breaks and hurts people. He goes to Reagan, and Reagan says, I mean, you have these powers and you can do incredible things with them, but they're kind of like a knife. You never point them at people. That's just so soft and tender, and that became a pillar, like an actual foundation for Mob to be unwaveringly kind, unwaveringly non-resentful, like every time like people would push on him as these characters progress, only gets stronger because he will refuse to harm them back. He refuses to give in to the bullying games or the bouts of fighting from the leader. I'm gonna mess up his name.
The blonde guy.
The blonde guy, yeah.
Who gets his hair cut and again just ugly anime
And
character.
yeah, seriously. He got so ugly when he was bald, and then he got that stupid wig on top. Anyway.
Oh, I hated that. Oh man, I hated that.
Yeah.
It was so stupid. That's
your pain here is my joy.
I know. It's just
good.
there are so many moments like that in the show where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so stupid.
Before we get too far though, and this character's allowed to be sad and feel love and feel angry and still not intend to hurt people. That it's gorgeous. It's amazing. They did it. They conveyed that. I love it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
This is pinnacle of like moral compass, and I love watching it and using it in some ways an example. Now I haven't. I want to say this as a kind of note. Is the reason I can't give the show a full 10 is because a full 10 for me is not only a full great immersive experience, but I need to see that I'm using and referencing this show in my everyday life. And so there's only a few shows that have ever done that for me. And Mob Psycho, while brilliant and impactful when I watch it, doesn't carry on for me. That doesn't mean that means I can love and adore it all I want, because it deserves it. It really does.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut back to my rating scale, but
no, that's perfect.
I should have done that earlier.
What are some other points that you guys like? What pushed it up to that 8 and that 9 for you guys, and then maybe I'll share a couple of things that pulled it down for me.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to like agree with things that pulled it up. Like I said, like I liked Mob, I liked the cool animation moments. Like there's things I liked about it. I didn't give it a 1. But yeah, like Skyler, what are some moments that gave it an 8 for you?
Well, for me, a lot of it was just the characters. Because, for example, we brought them up earlier, the overcompensated wig. Like, number one, it was a joke. It was hilarious. But just the character growth between these different characters. His brother, yeah, he went through a dark time when he finally got the psychic powers. And he did a lot of questionable things, but then he came back from that and became essentially the person that he was portrayed as before, but now genuinely of just a good person. And so even with like the negative characters around Mob, the impression that I get is that he's wearing off on them more than they are on him. Whereas despicable as they are, Dimple included, they are getting better just because of the time that they are spending around Mob, and where he's showing her, I was like, look, these things don't make sense. These things that you're doing don't make sense in terms of being kind to each other and all these other things. And again, they're just becoming better. And so the story on that side, I like. There's a lot of redemption arcs, and I always like a good redemption arc.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons that Zuko is one of my favorite characters.
Yes.
From Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll throw out a couple points then. Just from what you were mentioning, kind of reminded me of a couple things. Like number one, we kind of mentioned the big wig and stuff, and I realized the way to describe why to me I didn't like it is the things that were supposed to be funny to me were just cringy and annoying. And so like I didn't really get into the sense of humor that the show had, and a lot of this show is supposed to be humor because it balances the humor with some of like the really deep aspects that we've talked about and Braydn really enjoyed. But to me, I just didn't get the humor. To me, and again, it's a personal thing. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just I didn't like it. Every time I'd be watching an episode with my wife and she'd be like, ha ha ha, I would just be sitting there with like my hand on my forehead, like, oh, this is so dumb. Like that was, so that like for me, I just didn't really get the humor piece. And it's another reason why I think another incredible show that everyone should watch, One Punch Man, I also didn't like that much because I didn't really get the humor. Maybe I have a brain issue, but regardless, I just don't like that kind of humor. To me, it's just stupid. So that's one of the things
I mean, like. I'll say about the comedy, it's quirky and fun at best, right? It's not deep. It's not making like, it's not interesting by any means. It's not. It just isn't. So if it's not a strong aspect of the show, even though it's a very well featured aspect of the show. So if you're not along for the ride and if you don't like the beats, 100%, you're gonna fall off it. The comedy doesn't impact the viewer. So it does that, and it's throughout the show. Like, it's all over the place.
What are some other things that made it so high for you, Braydn? 9.5.
Oh, I mean, jeez. Okay, let's talk about, just for a moment, the ending of season 1 with the claw.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, because this is when we get to see just a little bit of like the shiniest Reagan you'll ever see in his entire life. Because like Reagan, he's both, or Reagan, right?
I think so.
Yeah, Reagan. He is both a scummy, dirty, rude, like people-hating, antagonistic, like scumbag, scam artist, and also an incredibly wise mentor. That really, I mean, there's one thing to say that his writing was strong because he said strong things, and there's another thing to say his writing was strong because I believe that he would say these things, even given those major character defects. So in this scene, he says, "Your toy, your sword, you're leaning on that toy. You're behaving like a child in this instance. Think about that." He's like the guy that surrounds himself with all the dolls and stuff. He says, "You're leaning on other stuff to bolster yourself up." And then like the final guy, he says, "I mean, you have these powers, but what are you doing with them? You're just blowing crap up and not caring who you hurt along the way." I'm like, oh, he nailed it. Oh my goodness, Reagan, get him, man, punch him, get him with that wisdom, bam. Like they managed to make that action scene, which it is an action scene.
You're talking about the last one where he gets some of Mob's power, right?
Yep.
Yes.
And then he's just like, pow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He's able to hold his own in a telepathic, like, evil guy world and then teach them. Like, man, that character is so good. And like, there's just sometimes I just like, come on, dude. You could do so much better, but you had this ambition for whatever reason of being the scam artist that you are, which took him to some really interesting places in season 2. Can we just talk about that for a moment?
Yeah,
the Reagan arc in season 2,
the rise and fall, and then the re-rise.
Yeah. Because after his encounter with Mob's powers, he awoke. Like, he became a psychic. He became an actual Esper.
Yep.
And then he got a little bit. He found that flaw that was always there. That he just let it just like.
Oh yeah.
Take it all the way to the top.
And one thing I will note is that season 2 and season 1 felt very different to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Talk
about that.
Well, can I dive in real quick on Reagan, real fast, while we're on that point?
Yeah.
Before we move on.
Yeah.
This kind of gets into, actually, I'll really quickly throw out really concise things that I didn't really get into the show for. Reagan was one of them. I actually hated Reagan.
I
did not like his character. For me personally.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, bring it. Come on, bring it in.
For me personally, I don't enjoy watching a show where the primary relationship is based on a lie, and a lie that is meant to take advantage of someone, particularly a child. To me, it just feels so wrong in my gut that I just can't enjoy watching it for fun. Like, oh, haha, he's lying to this kid, and it's like, I just can't, for me. So that's one thing. I really did not like that relationship. I didn't like Reagan. And every time it was made fun of, I was just like, nah, to me, that's messed up. Even though it's a show, even though it's a fiction, I was just like, no, that's messed up, and I don't like it. With that also, I guess that's my main point. So the relationship, Reagan, the whole premise of the show is this guy taking advantage of a kid and lying to him. Like, if you just put it that way, and sure, you could phrase anything to be bad. I really didn't enjoy that part of it.
You
and that
have
was the
to
whole
because
point
you
of,
didn't like it. Like,
yeah, and that was the whole
100%.
point of the first season. So like so that was for me just like a big and then the other big one that I'll just throw off as a side, just the thematic elements of the show. I don't as a person enjoy really the whole ghost possession exorcism topic in general. And so to me, I was pretty much bound to not like this show regardless. I tried really hard.
Yeah.
But when you combine the first episode and the second episode of Reagan and Mob's relationship, with this, which is something I have a problem with, and then the thematic elements, and then the ugly art, I was on a path to not liking it from episode 1. Like minute 5, I was already like, oh, this is gonna be really hard for me. So those are my personal points.
Yeah. We're working better though, because you guys don't know this. The viewers here don't know this. Listeners here. But we've been recommending shows to each other, like not only just the three of us, but the whole anime club that we've been watching for like years now. And Brett and I have just missed way too many times. We have a redemption arc. We're finally doing pretty good with Beastars here, it sounds like, which I am super stoked for this weekend.
Heck yeah, we're getting together for Anime Club this weekend to have our anime discussion on Beastars.
But man, Mob Psycho was definitely in the line of those that I was really excited to bring to the table, and it just not land with Brett.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's okay. Yeah,
yeah, it was good talks.
Anyway, so those two points are over. Skyler, what were you gonna say?
Please,
season 1, season 2,
hit it.
Well, just season 2 and season 1 just felt very different, but I think I have to get technical to really break that apart, because
did it affect your enjoyment?
No, not really, but it's just
okay.
And that's the thing where it's like I wasn't really sure what it was, because it's like, oh, it felt like more of season 2 was episodic before it turned into the story arc, but season 1 was kind of the same way, where the first few episodes, for the first while, it was episodic until it evolved into a storyline. I guess that the thing about season 2 was just how it felt like there was some character progression with some regression that I wish wasn't regressed.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. Well, let's maybe, you brought up technical. Let's use that as our segue. Is there any other like super quick bullet points you guys want to bring up, like, didn't like, to just be like before we dive into our technical discussion?
Oh goodness, I wish I remembered more about season 2 to gush on that. But I like it. Most of what I talked about carried over, so that'll do it for me. For personal enjoyment.
Sweet. Sky?
That's pretty much it for enjoyment.
Sweet. I'll make one note for anyone listening. This is where me, Skyler, and Braydn are super different in how we rank our enjoyment of shows. I do not include my likelihood to recommend a show to someone in my enjoyment ranking at all, because I recognize that my tastes and preferences are they're very me, they're unique, and I don't think anyone else maybe shares the same enjoyment as I do. So like for me, just because I didn't like Mob Psycho, I have recommended Mob Psycho to like probably 20 people. I've been like, hey, what kind of shows do you like? Do you like this? Do you like this? What kind of sense of humor do you have? And they're like, oh, this. I'm like, oh, you know what? You should watch Mob Psycho. You would really like it. In the back of my head, I'm like, I didn't like it, but you will. So I'm going to recommend it to you. So I'm not saying it's a bad show. It's just, I didn't enjoy it, but I'll recommend it to tons of people because I think it's a good show. Same thing with One Punch Man. I tell everyone to watch One Punch Man, even though I didn't get into it. So anyway, I just wanted to give that disclaimer.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know you recommended Mob Psycho.
I guess.
Awesome.
Totally.
For me though, my recommendation is like a blind recommendation, where it's like you'll probably enjoy it because I enjoyed it a lot. And yeah, there are some shows on my ranking that are lower, and where according to my technical ranking or my enjoyment ranking, I wouldn't recommend them, but I have. Because and talking with that person, it's like, oh, this one is one that you would probably enjoy. Then I thought it was hot garbage, but you would probably enjoy it. The ones,
for example, Braydn, last week, our podcast of Cowboy Bebop, I recommended to our viewers Neon Genesis Evangelion, even though I despise that show. I hate that show. But I can recommend it to the right kind of person. So same thing with Mob Psycho.
I see, and then with mine, since we're doing this circle, I'm going to jump with mine. I'm just get right in there.
Skyler, did I interrupt you, by the way?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, just good. We're all set. So because I recommend, I have my enjoyment ranking largely based on if I would have recommended it or not, because my stamp of approval on a show or the shows I want to promote, I want to be clearly marked.
Ah, interesting.
I want my stamp of approval to mean something when I recommend a show to somebody.
Ah,
okay,
I see.
A hard divisive line of these ones over here, I don't. I just don't. They can sit over there and get rotten. I don't want them. If they just don't come up, I don't care. That's a good thing for the world.
Interesting. Yeah.
Whereas the ones on this side, I want to say, I approve. Like this is good stuff. You'll not be wasting your time wholeheartedly watching that. At least as far as I can recommend it to you.
Interesting. Okay, cool. That was an awesome little side tangent. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, let's jump into technical. So for everyone listening, the way that technical works is we have a rubric of 4 categories: art, story, characters, and delivery. We rank each one on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being terrible, 5 being exceptional. In the middle is 3, which is on par with what you would expect from a decent show. It doesn't stand out for being exceptionally good or bad. And that's the same for all 4 categories. We rank them 1 to 5, and then after some math, we get a total technical score of 1 to 10. And we are going to start in the art category. Art includes music, animation, art style, intro, and outro. Okay. Hit it.
Oh, with 1 being, it is frequently bad, poorly done, and or repetitive, and 5 exceptional being, the composition always delivers powerful moments in excellent fashion.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. I forgot, now that you've said the words opening, I forgot something I really enjoy about this show. Oh, that intro song is so good.
The animation for the intro is also really interesting.
Oh, yeah. And this is one that, because usually I have that toothy, vengeful rage against intros that spoil the show. But not on this one. I make an exception for this one anime because it spoils stuff. Like it has things about the show listed all across it. But you have to know what you're looking for to pull it out. Because if you don't, you could just wash into the cauliflower that appears on the screen, or the Ferris wheel that turns into the dumplings into the Reagan heads. You know, like what matters and what doesn't matter in there. You don't know, but you know about you're about to get Monster 100 after that intro. It's good.
I think the other point too to that is also just because you have characters that are so wacky, but in pretty much every way imaginable, whether they're super ugly, or like with the claw things where it's like they're just super weird. Yeah, if they show up in the intro, it's like, well, is that a significant character? Is it just a background character that got thrown into the intro just because? With this art style, who can tell?
Yep.
Yeah. With that, and I've already spoken out heavily on how I feel about the art style of the characters. However, if I'm saying technically, how well did they execute on the art style they chose and the animation, I actually think it's really good. I think it's good. And the moments where they really stepped it up for those hype moments where they wanted to deliver a powerful moment, I think it was really good. So I'm just going to throw out that I would give Mob Psycho in the art department like a 4 or a 4.5. I think they did really good in the art. The music was nothing exceptional. It really,
and
the music was
that's
not.
Where I would take points off, because the music was usable at best.
Yeah, it was a 3. The music was a 3. It was what you'd expect.
Honestly, 3 or possibly 2.5. Besides the intro, we're omitting the intro after this.
Oh, sure. Because
I think if it works, especially in tandem with how they use it. But a lot of their music is very repetitive. Like
Yeah.
they reuse sound bites all over the place. I mean,
True.
to convey a mood, but it gets a little. It gets a it. It does get the mood. Like it's sure that does accomplish that. Yet it's also very notably. Uh, it feels repetitive. I don't know how to best. I couldn't read the
Yeah.
words. I'm
No,
sorry.
you're right.
So,
No, you're
it feels
totally right.
repetitive.
So when it comes to music, music's not my thing. When I notice it, it's either because it's really bad or really good. And I noticed the repetitive notes that were used for the music
Yep.
on this one.
And with that repetitive, one thing, so for those who don't know, my wife and I are classically trained musicians. One thing that repetitive music really hurts is actually the characters in the story, because when you reuse something too much and you're just reusing it for a certain mood or a certain type of scene, you don't have what's known as themes, which is like, okay, this character has a theme. This motif exists for this type of emotion that it's trying to convey. So it cheapens the emotional experience of a character or of a moment in the plot when it's too repetitive. And to Braydn and Skyler's point, I'm fully on board with like, yeah, there was a little too much of like, okay, this song again, this theme again, like the same thing, very repetitive. So yeah, I'm
like
on board with that.
the one that sticks in my head is the dong ding 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 dong ding dong
Yep.
ding ding. Like I know exactly what's going on in the scene when that happens, which that is a good point. Yet it is overused.
Yeah.
It gets used all the time, like all the time, every episode at least.
Yeah.
It's because they were so busy on the animation, man.
Yeah, the
seriously.
animation really, really carries this one. And so I would be comfortable giving this one a 4.5. Again, just because music just isn't quite there. But everything else about it did what it needed to do.
I would honestly say a 4 because I believe the music drags it down that much.
Wow.
Like it does. The music consistently takes me out of the experience of the show, the watch. It does, like it feels like I don't know. I'm gonna say this poorly. I'm gonna preface that. It feels as if the hypnotist is like trying to force an emotion on me, and so I can see it happening, and I know it's happening, and I'm feeling the change. And because the animation is great and the story and the characters are going along, I allow it. Yet it's very apparent to me what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Which is not a strong point when it comes to music. And I think it pulls me out of the experience that much. I would say even towards a 4 for art.
I'll give one more toss for why I also think it should be a 4 in the animation department, but I want your guys' thoughts on this because I don't know. So we've talked about kind of the ugliness of the show, but put that aside. I'm not talking about the ugliness. Some of the things I'm referring to is like, okay, when a character emotes, there's the moments where their arms get 4 times the length and they turn to spaghetti and they're waving around, or their face starts to melt, or they start crying and snot like shoots out of their nose.
Yeah.
And I would propose that a lot of those moments are actually not like, if you go and you watch the show, there's a lot of moments that are not really animated well. And I'm not saying that those crazy moments are always animated poorly. I'm saying that I've seen other shows that do that same style of things. Let's take One Punch Man. And it was a lot less lazy than some of the approaches that Mob Psycho had in some of those moments, where it was like things were either so streaky that you could not see what was happening, or the character was so over the top that like they didn't even fit in the frame anymore. So like, to me, some of those moments were like the animation just, it didn't miss because it felt, I don't want to say lazy. I'm sure a lot of people were super hard on it, but I've seen that style done better is what I'm saying. Do you guys agree or disagree?
So the interesting thing about Mob Psycho is that the studio and the author is the same.
Yep.
So
As
this,
One Punch Man.
it's this, So the same group
interesting.
who did One Punch Man, the same author who wrote One Punch Man, wrote Mob Psycho. The same studio that animated One Punch Man animated Mob Psycho 100.
I would propose they did it better in One Punch Man. But Braydn, what do you think?
I see your point. I see your point. in that it's hard because again they lead in with ugly characters and the portrayal of ugliness in emotions, right? And I think I want to disagree with you because not only do they, I mean, they play around with the animations, all that stuff, yet they don't do it in a consistent single tropey manner. They do it in a diverse spray of conveying that same emotion.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I'm saying they don't
Mm-hmm.
rely on a certain one lower, maybe possibly lower quality uh, uh, form of conveying the emotion. They express it and they keep going and they express it again, but in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
and they keep rounding on that emotion when it pertains to the character. So
Okay. Yeah,
the
fair.
diversity, I would say, I, gives more power to the how they did it than so much than the possibly lower quality. I can't picture it quite in my head.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I see. I
Pulls it
see what
back.
you're saying. I see what you're saying. Okay. I agree with you guys. I redact my point.
Yeah. And I know I could even lean a 4.5 on this one. I was just been thinking about it. Like I think when I think I kind of got in the mode of harping on the music because I just came to the realization of how that did actually detract from the art. But I mean, the opening exceptional, the ending song, meh. The
Mm.
art style and animation in general, I can't stop gushing about. They
Yeah.
did so many things. They did so well. Like they set the bar high and then they rose up above it, like all the time, every episode.
Yeah.
They consistently hit time and time again.
So do we think 4.5 then?
I'm happy with a 4.5.
Okay. Mob Psycho has a 4.5 for art. That brings us to story. Included in story is plot, plot devices, tone/mood, continuity, world building, pacing, rules and systems, and tropes. A one terrible is it was frequently nonsensical, inconsistent, boring, confusing, ambiguous, unoriginal, and disappointing. Exceptional, it was always consistent, well-paced, consummate, on point with tone and mood, and unique. I can
Okay.
I can start that by saying for most of these, I think it really did a good job at like tone and mood was probably one of the points where I felt like the dichotomy of the crazy funny moments and the deep moments was so much that it was sometimes hard to swing back and forth between them.
Mhm.
So I think that was maybe one of the harder points, but in terms of like plot devices, even continuity in a show where the main character is completely overpowered, I think they still did
Yes.
a pretty decent job at having a rule and a system, even though we don't know how it works yet. And that's one of the things that I'm a little, well, it's been 2 whole seasons and we still
Patient
don't
about.
know a lot about how
Uh-huh.
it actually works. Like, how long is this show going to drag on for? So I think maybe pacing. But I'm rambling too much. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on some of these story systems and
So
points?
one thing that I actually want to bring up is that um, I actually think that they handled the overpowered aspect of Mob really, really well.
Yeah,
Because
agreed.
there are way too many stories that have overpowered characters and they're simply overpowered. There's no meaningful limit, there's no meaningful condition, and they're just overpowered.
Cough, cough. I was reincarnated as a slime. Blech.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's a great example
Yeah.
of someone that's just
Yeah.
overpowered. There's not a
Mm-hmm.
specific limitation, and so whenever, whatever
Oh,
his
God, I hate that show.
Rimuru has to get something done, well, guess what? He's going to get it done. There's not really a question.
Cough Saitama.
Whereas,
Cough.
yeah, but on the flip side, Mob, where he doesn't have access to his overpowered all the time, where
Mm-hmm.
whenever something happens, you see the gauge either fill or maybe go down a little bit. It does kind of tell you how close you are to one
I
of
love
these
that game
outbreaks.
so much.
And so
Yeah.
again, it's a very, very good way of kind of keeping these things in track. So when Mob was getting absolutely trashed and it was like slowly ticking up, but it never hit the point where he went over, it was a very clear communication of, hey, nothing will happen here. And I think that's something that they did very well. On the flip side,
Unless he suddenly goes unconscious, because that was a regular thing. Like, oh, it only hit 98. Oh, but he's unconscious and now it's all the way up. There was like,
In episode 5.
yeah, when he was fighting Blondie.
But even there, that one was also very, very unique because he had two 100% moments there.
Yes.
Yeah, and I actually really liked those moments. I'm not saying you're wrong. I agree
Yeah.
they handled his overpoweredness. I liked the way they handled it probably more than any other OP character I've seen. Truly.
Yeah.
Like I think they did fantastic with that.
And
Yep.
so, yeah, and so to that point, I actually have to give them really good props for handling an overpowered character really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to say, I want to just because I think what we're saying is that there's a consistent higher bar on this one on this show
True.
and how they're handling stuff. I want to talk about one of those lower moments, or like the lower not moments, I guess, but also a consistency that where they hit lower
Sure.
is that like there is the comedy, which is light at best, right? And they have their story points and hard hitting, uh, like one liners from characters or the setup that sometimes feels slow and unimportant. Sometimes it does reveal itself to become and like become realized, or like that character is not a wasted character in a moment, and you
Mm,
figure that out later. But there are definitely some times in the show you're feeling a little bit open space, like you don't know what's going to happen. You really don't have a like a tie or a tether to push you forward, besides
mm.
like you expect them to do the incredible things that they do, which they do that. I'm just saying there's some low light moments that if I'm looking back, I just watched it recently, this first season, that consistently come up where it's not driving, it's not
Yeah.
particularly engaging, it's not all, it doesn't always feel like it's important for the story or the characters. Um, it's not bad, and they do use it. It just feels slow sometimes.
Yes,
Could I
I would
could
agree.
I tie in one thing to that?
Absolutely.
I'm actually going to tie in exactly with the point you're making. I'm going to tie in a low moment that I think technically for the show is plot devices.
Yep, that
What
too.
things do they use to move the plot forward? A lot of times feel really inorganic. For
Mhm.
example, I think a great point of a bad plot device is Dimple. How many times is Dimple the plot armor for the show in both season 1 and season 2, especially in season 2? Oh, Mob's in trouble. Gonna take control of his body real quick. And it just like
Mhm.
he's this band-aid character, and I hate band-aid characters in every show. This isn't about enjoyment, but I think band-aid characters in any show that's like, hey, we need something to happen conveniently. Let's just have the convenient character make it happen. And to me, that
Mhm.
was Dimple. I
Yep.
think his use as a plot device through the show was was not could have been done better. I don't think it was executed very well technically. And then other moments where it's like, Braydn, like you were mentioning, some of the moments I felt like it was slow is like, okay, next episode, they're going on another job and we need something to move forward. So we're going to have this job. And so, like, yeah,
Mhm.
anyway,
Exactly.
I agree with you. And I
That
think
the way you
Dimple is,
moded that, yes, exactly.
Yeah,
okay,
the
sweet.
pacing and the plot devices suffered in Mob Psycho. Because, yeah, especially in the episodic ones, it was very arbitrary as to why they would go and do something, why they would be in a particular place. And even later, there were times where it just felt really arbitrary as to why things were happening the way they were.
Mhm.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And they hit some really powerful moments almost
Yes.
within every episode,
True.
honestly.
True. And the moments they completely, smacked in the face super well plot wise, the brother,
Oh, the
Mob's
brother.
brother,
Oh
his
my goodness,
his whole
that was
arc,
just
Reagan's
something
arc
else.
was really awesome. We've talked about.
Ooh, and let me just say, they wove Mob's brother arc, Ritsu's arc, into the final arc of the first season immaculately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was almost without a seam, like where they transition between Ritu figuring out his own, and then this big horror, or the big evil got
Yeah.
introduced
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
and worked into. Like, woo, 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 got the spicy meatballs. We
Yeah.
take those.
Yeah. There is one other element of the I'll save it for characters. It's actually character related. Never mind.
Okay.
Not story related. So what are we
So
thinking?
how are we feeling?
Yeah, what are we thinking story?
3.5 or 4.
Yeah.
I'm thinking higher than like a 3.5 feels like a disservice, honestly. Yet I'm kind of weighing below at 4.
Well, because kind of like you said, there were some things that they did really well, but then there were also other aspects that were just kind of meh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm good with a 3. I'm good with a 3.5 if for no other reason than the fact that a lot of the points that they focused on in the story, for whatever reasons, there's decisions for it, as we've all mentioned, seemed poorly paced because it's been 2 whole seasons. We still actually don't know what caused Mob's power. We don't know what the flashbacks of all the aliens are. We actually know
The first episode.
we actually know literally nothing about the big areas. Okay, sure, in season 2 we know about the Claw trying to take over the world, so that progressed story wise, but a lot of the big moments that we've been little teasers for, we haven't had a lot of, but we've had a lot of side questing. And so I don't know, I'm actually in for it in the 3.5 range as well.
I mean, but I'm gonna take a pull upward because our rubric is good and useful and we like it and we're making adjustments to it as we need to. It was often consistent. This 4 is good. It was often consistent, well paced, comprehensible, consummate, on point, and unique.
That's true. You know what?
It hits that.
I would
That's
agree
true.
on a 4.
Like I want
agree.
to typo down in it, but it hits that. It hits our 4.
You're right. You're totally right. 4.
4.
Okay, 4 it is. Now, characters. Characters gets into character design, development, motivation, action/inaction, relationships, and personality. 1, terrible. The characters are frequently unreasonable, confusing, inconsistent, unreasonably static, dynamic, and annoying in a non-intentional way. 5, the characters are always understandable, consistent, reasonable, adequately static, dynamic, and relatable. I'm going to start with 1 point.
Yep.
Relationship-wise, it's going to be Mob with his crush. I totally get the middle school vibe of you like someone for no reason, and they are your whole world, and they're your motivation for doing absolutely everything. And I get that, and like I have joined weightlifting things for high school crushes and stuff as well, but the obsessive insistence of that with Mob through the whole show, when all these big things are happening, to me was kind of a weak point. And then like in season 2, when she watches him like put the pages back together, and she's like, oh, that was kind of sweet. Like, I don't know, like that relationship and the build of that relationship was kind of like just a weak point, and I wish they did a little more, because I think they could have added a little extra seasoning to give that relationship some more flavor that would have made it feel like a better technically executed justification for his action and inaction, and for some of the character developments through the show. That was a long ramble, but do you guys agree or disagree with that?
I go ahead.
No, yeah, just I would agree.
I would agree, and I can even toss in some more. I mean, if we want to talk about like there's got to be a place where we like can give this show service, because characters is not it.
No,
Like
characters are all over
if
the
we're
place.
talking about Mob and Reagan, their relationship, it's kind of forced. It's pretty forced, I would say. Talk about Mob and the Dimple, right? It's pretty darn forced. If you want to talk about stinking Ritsu and the student body president, there's definitely some force in there. Like it serves the impacts, the story impacts well. Yet it's forced. It's consistently tropey. It's consistently we're gonna rely on your expectation to fulfill the thing.
Totally. And even with Mob and Reagan, right? Like I get Mob was in this vulnerable state when he met Reagan, but for that one thing to change Mob's entire life and build such a loyalty to this person.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, I agree with you, Braydon. I think you said it better than I could, so I'm going to stop talking. A lot of the relationships felt forced.
Yep.
Except for the relationship that the fitness club had with Mob and their protection of him.
That was the
Oh,
best
well.
thing in this entire show.
That was the best relationship in the show.
Oh, fight on, fight on! Absolutely.
Well, and even when they defended Mob.
Oh, yeah, all the time. In season 1 and 2.
Yeah, well, especially
Guys.
yes, but especially in season 2, that's where I was just like, oh, Fight Club, you are the best.
You know how like you want to like get pumped up for a workout, you have your locker, you have like the muscle people. I want a picture of just a long landscape. It's Mob over there and fitness club over there with them screaming fight on. That's just such a moment. That is just such a moment. I can take that to my stinking future. If I do that, I will take this anime to a 10. I was gonna throw that right now. If Fight On can get me to work out, I will take this anime to a 10.
Wow.
That's good. That's good.
Anyway, that's
anyway. And yeah, and I've already expressed the downsides I feel of Mob and Reagan's relationship, and I think that season 2 does a lot to bring more light to that.
Absolutely.
A lot more, but even then, and I know it's part of Mob's character, but his almost, you know, there's the moment where they have their fight, they kind of break up, and then he has the press conference where everyone now thinks he's psychic again, because the building shakes and all this stuff, and then he meets Mob outside, and then they kind of make up and get together, and it's Mob really just being that Gandhi character we talked about. It still doesn't really, I think, hit. Like, I think there needs to be, I feel like there could have been that moment where technically they gave Mob the opportunity to really really come to terms with like exactly who Reagan is with that relationship, and then formalize a new relationship. But I guarantee what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen in season 3. They're going to come back. It's going to be the same start as it was season 1. Same start as season 2. Same tempo, same feeling. And because I seriously doubt there's going to be any progression or change, to me, that feels like it's cheap, because you want to see building, but they're going to come back with the same. I guarantee season 3, episode 1. Reagan's going to be screaming, and they're going to be doing an exorcism, and then he's going to throw something at someone, and then he's magically going to come around the corner and punch someone exactly when he needs to. And then like, it's just going to be that same thing. So whether or not that's what the show is, now, I don't think that's a strong technical point of execution for the show.
Yeah.
To further that
relationships
point,
are poor.
It's also just a suffering of motivation, and also just progress.
Yes.
Where the motivation, this is something that I kind of had an issue with a lot of times, is it's just like Reagan's motivation. Okay, well, we understand that it's make money, just
fame.
be a general a-hole, just kind of that whole thing. And so, but with Mob though, well, not necessarily with Mob, but with a lot of the other characters, like the motivation was somewhat ambiguous, where I didn't really feel like it was that driving to their character. And there,
you might need to hit me with some more examples, because I'm thinking of some, and they drive forward pretty good.
Well, but this is where I'm saying, where it's like the characters in Mob Psycho are all over the place. There are some where their motivations line up exactly, others where they don't. There are some characters where they have a good amount of progress, and they make some, and then they're amazing in that sense. And there are other characters where nothing changes. There should have been some changes. Or what I hated, which happened in season 2, is there was progress made, but then the next episode, some of that was lost. And it was like, darn.
Mm-hmm. It does feel like it kind of hits that rewind button a little too frequently.
And so that's the weird thing about Mob Psycho to me, is the characters are all over the place on all of these metrics.
Although I want to toss one, I'm going to throw in conflict, because I'm confident here because I've already said it. The characters are not outstanding. they are notable and strong. Like when I think about outstanding characters, I want to think again back to our Haikyuu episode
Mm-hmm.
where like everything was so pinnacle, defining, and exuberant across this swath of characters. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is these characters are strong, and they have they when you see this character, you know like the 5 or 6 things that make up that character. Like the telepathy called president. She wants to
Mm-hmm.
be lazy with her friends. She wants the space. She wants to find and promote espers. She wants to change and improve the world. She wants to meet aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And she like thinks Mob is underutilizing his potential. That's one side character that gets maybe 3 episodes or something. Right?
Yeah.
You turn around to your characters. You turn around to characters, especially our very polarizing stinking Reagan. And you turn around to our very like again very well done overpowered Mob, and these characters mean something. They are forced together, yes, but they do mean something, and they do
Mm-hmm.
that thing.
So
Mm-hmm.
one counterpoint though to your psychic club president, what is the only thing that we really see them doing, or the thing that we see them doing 90% of the time? Wasting time playing games, eating snacks. They're not actually reading. They're not actually going out and trying to find espers. It's just, oh, hey, there's a convenient esper thing that popped up. I guess we'll do it, maybe.
I wouldn't put that as the baseline for her. Like,
Yeah,
yes,
I think
she
I
does.
think I'm kind of seeing where Braydon's coming from here on this one. I actually thought of her as an example as well. But
Yes, she does that, and she goes on a date with Mob to go find things, and she asks for proof about his psychic powers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's reference back to our rubric here. So in the good category, the characters are often understandable, consistent, reasonable, adequately static, dynamic, and relatable. 3, of course, is on par with what you'd expect from a decent show. Nothing crazy,
Yeah.
good or bad.
Yeah. This I'll put forward, with the exception of Mob, and I would even put forward Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
Mob being like even a higher scored character than Reagan is,
Mm-hmm.
because they
Yep.
pull off an overpowered character immaculately. Most of the characters in the show are meh.
Yeah.
They hit a 3.
I agree.
Yep.
They're on par. They're good. They may be a 3.25, 3.5 maybe. They're not a 4.
I agree.
They're a 3.
Yeah, Mob
Yeah, I agree.
and even Reagan are the 2 characters that would bring the score up. Even the brother would bring the score up. But everyone else, more or less, is meh. Or even 2.5 at sometimes.
I would add some additional flavor. I would say I agree with everything you guys said. I would, like Skyler said, I would add the brother into the good category. So brother, Mob.
Okay.
I actually think Reagan is not necessarily a good character. I think that he had moments that really stood out, but I think his character was actually just not great. It was actually very one-dimensional, really. I would say that there were actually some bad characters. I think Dimple is a bad character. He's there for moving the plot forward, having certain things happen. So I would say Dimple 2, rest of the cast 3, and then Mob and his brother 4. Reagan like 3.5.
Wrong. I like Dimple. I also agree he's not a very good character.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So are we landing with that spread at a 3.5?
Or is it a 2.5?
Or is it a 2.5? Or is it a 3?
I think it's a 3, personally. Just because of the spread of characters.
To me, I don't think there's enough bad characters to pull me all the way to a 3. I just feel like Mob deserves on his own at least a 0.5 bump in the area to 3.5. But you could easily convince me that 3 is where we should land, because I do think the rest of the characters were just so meh. And okay, you know what? I'm going to actually propose 3, and here's why. Every villain in the entire show was flat, boring, and completely what you would expect from any anime that needed a villain to drive the plot forward. None of the villains were interesting on any level other than like their design was kind of interesting, like the fat throat dude who made me gag. Like none of them, and they were even, the thing that even was frustrating is they were supposed to be interesting. They were supposed to be the claw commands us. It is our leader. The claw was supposed, these were supposed to be interesting characters, but they were all just throwaway people for Mob to hit into the wall and one shot, and then that was it. There was no interesting antagonist. Even the dad in the second season, he actually, I think, was not a good villain. Like,
Still
his
very
motivation,
stereotypical.
it was just so stereotypical and flat. Like, he was the freaking mole person from the end of The Incredibles 1. Yeah, like, just a throwaway villain. So I think the villains in this show were actually so bad. I'd put them in the bad category, so I'm good landing at a 3 for that.
This is what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Meh is on par, right? Everything we've said puts it on par. Mob gets a trophy for being the best, like, overpowered character. We're going to land everybody else at average.
Yeah.
More or less.
That's what I'm going to put forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we say 3 with a trophy for Mob?
Yes. If we can, then yes, please.
Okay. 3 with a trophy for Mob. I'm going to say and his
Because-
brother. Can we say and his brother?
I mean, his brother's a good character. It's
His
not
brother isn't trophy worthy.
literally defining. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm agreeing with his brother isn't trophy worthy, but he is a good character.
Yeah. Because Mob literally broke the stereotype of overpowered characters. Like Mob, I mean, some people will say One Punch Man. One Punch Man just get a trophy. He might be fun. People that like him, they'll say he's a good side. Mob's incredible.
True.
Mob is phenomenal.
What's the name of the One Punch Man? Saitama?
Saitama.
Yeah, I don't like Saitama as a character.
Me neither.
Yeah, exactly.
But One Punch
This
Man
guy-
works.
Yeah. Totally.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll say 3 for characters with a trophy for Mob.
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome.
Good
Okay.
job, Bob. Pat on the head. You're doing good, buddy.
So now we're on to the delivery aspect. So this is the delivery of the edit, the translation of the subtitles, the voice acting of the sub/dub. 1, terrible. It is frequently cheesy, inappropriate, incoherent, and bland. And then 5, exceptional. The delivery is always believable, genuine, understandable, elevating, and enriching, taking it to that next level.
So, wait, question. Who has seen both the sub and the dub? Has anybody seen both?
I barely liked it enough to watch the sub. There's no chance I was watching the dub.
Don't watch the dub. It's not good. It's serviceable at best.
Oh,
But
heads up for viewers, we don't knock a show down for having a bad dub because we feel that's the default.
That is default.
We do give a show bonus points if it has a good dub,
Yes, we
because
do.
that is rare. So we don't knock it for a bad dub. We do enhance it for a good dub. And so, Braydn, in this case, you're saying it's on par with a bad dub.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. It's not awful, but it's definitely not an enjoyable experience. Go with the sub. The sub's great. They're great. It's fine.
Yeah.
Which is our
Of course.
recommended default, just so everyone knows.
Yes, agreed.
Okay, so let's just say the sub then. How was the voice acting for the sub?
I would want to say that this one was good because, again, we keep on talking about these impactful scenes, and there is so much emotion that all of these characters are going through, Mob included, who is usually very monotone.
Especially.
Well, that's my
Mob
whole point. Where it's like
especially.
Mob is like the character who comes to mind as to delivery, where it's like he's monotone, but when he needs to be emotive, when he's having those moments, he's emotive.
His art is particularly emotive, not necessarily his vocalizations. Most of the time,
That's what I'm
But,
saying.
like when
but
he's
most of the time
he's
he
anxious or when he's when he's passionate, like you can tell.
okay, that's true. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
because yes, the status quo for Mob is neutral, monotone.
Yeah.
But even then, being consistently monotone is actually hard.
Oh yeah, totally. I could never do it, as you all can. You can all probably attest.
I don't know. Think about other characters, and a lot of them are kind of screamy characters. You know what I mean?
I was just gonna say that, Braydon. I think the rest of the cast is actually just meh to me.
Yeah.
Other
Yeah.
than Mob. Mob gets a trophy again, but I think the rest of the cast is just loud and generic and meh. Like, yeah, okay, sure.
Mhm.
I'd expect this from a good show. Some characters to have some decent. Even Reagan. I don't think Reagan's voice acting once stood out as like, wow, he really delivered that line. Even in the moments when he delivered powerful lines, the voice acting didn't take it to another level for me. It was like what I would expect
It was
from
the script.
it was a good script. Yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Someone read that script really nice. It's not like Steins Gate or so. I would even say what you will about Kirito and Sao, but his voice actor really got into those moments in the script where he needed to. And Reagan, he read the script good.
He's very. Whereas I don't know. I'm saying this is really stupid. Whereas Mob is monotone, every else is one tone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is the one voice man show, and it's all screaming.
Well, because I was trying to think about Reagan and the way he delivered his lines. And the thing is Reagan had like the one mode that actually no, he had two mode. Freak
Two
out.
modes.
Yeah, he had the freak out mode where it was like, oh crap, things are going wrong. I need Mob to handle this or I'm gonna die. And his usual scam where it's like, oh, but his whole arm thing.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, it's more animation than voice delivery.
That's what I'm gonna say. Is like the script in this one obviously worked and serviced what happened. Yet the animation was the delivery. Like was the punch here. Like that.
Yes.
That is what conveyed everything.
Which is why I got a 4.5.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I would propose that the delivery of this show was just plain meh. It's the art that held up all of the emotion and the delivery and the character. Like the art really carried it pretty strong. So for me, I'm thinking delivery is a 3.
I might bump it up to a 3.5 because of the way that they used the art to transition the cuts in the scenes. And again, basically just Mob.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I would give it a 3.5, not a 3.
I think I'll lean that too. Just reading over our good category, the delivery is often believable, genuine, understandable, elevating, and enriching. The delivery didn't hold back the animation.
Mm-hmm.
It was carried by it for sure, but it didn't hold it back. It did its job. It did it well. It led in.
True.
I would just kind of off our rubric. I'd probably say a 3.5 because it doesn't especially a lot with the voice acting on both sub and dub. I can't say that is that level there. It holds itself back on that point. I think 3.5 is fair.
Yeah, I'm sold. I agree. I think 3.5 as well. Especially for the edit, because the edit's in there, the art and the way that they made it be believable, genuine, elevating. The edits really did elevate the experience, but because everything else was meh, I think landing at 3.5 is totally reasonable.
Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we've reached the final conclusion for our technical assessment of Mob Psycho. Art 4.5, story 4, characters 3, delivery 3.5, which gives us a final score of 7.5 for technical for Mob Psycho. Braydn, ask the question.
What's the question?
The one you always ask. Where does that put us compared to our previous show?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was looking at. Where that puts us, exactly 0.25 off our top two of Cowboy Bebop and Haikyuu.
Okay.
Like on animes that hit, this almost hits as high as our top one so far. It is definitely above the higher echelon of stuff we reviewed.
So from a technical perspective, Mob Psycho is right up there, falling only short of Haikyuu and Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. I mean, because there's gonna be a point, like, if we see an 8 anime, like, I don't even know. You know what I mean? Like,
I've got a couple ideas. Yeah,
Man.
awesome. Okay, great.
I thought you were asking me to recommend a Yuri on Ice again. That's my trope. But...
Okay, let's get that out of the way. Braydn, do your traditional Yuri on Ice recommendation.
Let's see.
But
Actually,
let's give some recommendations. Yeah.
Yeah, no, on this one I'm not gonna go watch Yuri on Ice if you want to, but not because of Mob Psycho, not because of any kind of favoritism to there, because Yuri on Ice is not a comedy. Yuri on Ice is gorgeous and well animated. Yuri on Ice is a music anime. This none of those. Don't do that. Go watch One Punch Man. Obviously, go watch One Punch Man. The straightest line in the world is go watch One Punch Man.
Yep, that would be the one that I was going to recommend.
Absolutely, it hits all the notes. It does it in a completely different style, making a lot more fart jokes. I think I can't quite clearly remember
Fruit jokes in general.
But it's more comedy. It's more comedy. I think it even lands some comedic bits in general, and also handles the overpowered character in a better, if not just generally comedic way.
I wouldn't say better, but 100% comedic is what makes it feel balanced and okay.
Oh, sorry, not better than Mob, better than average.
Yes, better than average. Better than average.
Better than average.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going down my list here. What else we got? You know what? We need to talk more about this anime. To Your Eternity just needs to be talked about more, because it's we're starting to clear away from comedy, way away.
I just got goosebumps.
If you want, yeah, I know. If you want emotional impact, if you want things to cut you deep and make you ask questions about life, it's To Your Eternity. They're abusive on that matter. We'll talk about that another day. But they know how to get onto your emotion buttons, and it hits true and hard. That one I recommend for emotional impact, 100%.
Sweet. Skyler.
Yeah, One Punch Man was, like I said earlier, it was written by the same author. It was animated by the same studio. So if you liked what was done in Mob Psycho, you'll probably enjoy One Punch Man. I have yet to see the second season, but the first season was good.
Yo.
Okay. All right.
You don't need to watch the second season. It's fine.
Oh no. Oh no.
I've heard that consistently.
And that's also why I'm in no rush to watch the second season.
It's fine.
All right, I'll throw out two recommendations. Recommendation number one, I'm gonna shift genres entirely, but I'm gonna lean heavily on the comedy aspect, and I'm gonna recommend Kaguya-sama: Love is War.
Yep. I knew he was coming out.
It is hilarious. It is way over the top. The animation is fun and it changes. So there's a lot of elements of Mob Psycho that you would really like if you liked it. Watch Kaguya-sama: Love is War, but replace the deep moments in Mob Psycho that are kind of psychological and relationship based,
and the gross animation.
And the gross animation. There's no gross animation in Kaguya-sama,
no ugly
which
characters.
is great. They're cute and fun.
Yeah, they're cute.
But replace those deep philosophical moments with more of the romantic kind of fun relationshipy moments, and you get Kaguya-sama: Love is War. So that's a recommendation for a comedy bit. And then, of course, I'll just throw out another One Punch Man. Watch One Punch Man.
One Punch Man.
Another I'll throw out is The Disastrous Life of Sakike.
Yes! Brett, yes, absolutely. You must watch that after this one. Hold up. That is brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Overpowered character, comedy bites, all school theming. Take it on. It is such a weird anime.
I'll need to watch it then.
That absolutely hits. I mean, it hits all those bites. It does not have the emotional impact, but it is a good fun time.
Mm-hmm. Not nearly
Sorry,
as deep.
Sorry, recommendation.
Not nearly as deep. No, you said everything I was going to say, but better. So I'm just going to leave it there and say not nearly as deep, but super fun and quirky. Quirky. All right. those are our recommendations. If you like Mob Psycho, check out those. And finally, it is time for the announcement of what we're doing next week. Next week's podcast is going to be the one, the only, the epic Sword Art Online.
Sword Art Online, let's go!
SAO next week. However, we're doing it with a twist, just so everybody knows. SAO next week, we are going to primarily focus on the first 14 episodes. Primarily. However, we will talk about the second arc of season 1. We'll talk about the future seasons. So we'll bring up things, but primarily we're going to focus on the first 14 episodes.
Primarily, we're going to rank the first 14 episodes.
Yes, we're going to rank the first 14 episodes. So that will be the focus of our next podcast, SAO. Arigato, everybody, for joining us for this episode of 3 out of 10 Anime, covering Mob Psycho. Next week, we jump into Sword Art Online. Really grateful you're all here. Check us out on all of our socials, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all the good bits. And until next time, Jane.
See ya.
Fight on! Take it!
僕は最低だ。